Okay, so welcome back. This is part 2 of natal Pluto in the 12th house or Pisces. All right. This is big stuff. Big stuff. Okay. So I'm going to repeat a little bit so we can get back into this. This is when I said 222 and I saw that the page number 222 after I read this. I'm going to reread it. This fracturing or disassociation effect promoted a sense of ultimate aloneness, a sense that something was missing or lacking in his life. Thus, he checked another career dream wherein he desired to write romantic sex novels. He even assumed a pseudonym. Through the plots and characters in his fiction writing, he vicariously fulfilled his own subconscious desires. Because this quote unquote happened to coincide with a lack of sexual romanticism in his real life relationship, he became involved in an affair that resembled the plots of the books he was writing. This individual did, in fact, materialize his subconscious desires and dreams. They seemed and were very, quote unquote, real to him and others. He had no conscious realization that he was avoiding and or fearing a merging of himself with the source. He had no conscious idea that he had the desire to, quote unquote, play God, or that he felt ultimately alone. In fact, he felt quite to the contrary. A common problem with most 12th house Pluto individuals. They have a difficult time recognizing the actual basis of their, quote unquote, dream realities because they are living them. They are hard to recognize because the motives and fears that create these desires and realities are quite unconscious. And I want to say, don't any of you feel bad about this. This is what you were given at birth. This Pluto zodiac sign or house placement of your Pluto, so that you could work through this. You were going to do this. Okay. Yet because these desires are separating by nature and are not the result of a conscious direction that is based on an inner relationship with the source, the realities that are created are destined to fail in some way. The dream balloon will pop and reality will strike. These individuals then confront the fact that this quote unquote reality was only a dream. The fantasy, only a fantasy. And that, in the end, they are left standing on the precipice alone, without meaning, contentment, or inner peace. In the above example, the national network of this man let me start again. In the above example, the national network that this man created collapsed, and it was going to have to, of course, because many of the workers within the network began to see through him. It collapsed because many, it collapsed because many of these people were not qualified to do the work, and because he did not exercise proper discrimination or judgment with respect to whom he could heal or help and whom he could not. In the last analysis, it collapsed because of his wanting to play God, and because this work was not by the direction of the source. In other words, the need in all 12th house Pluto individuals is to align their personal wills and desires with the will and desires of the source. Not just do it for personal gain. In fact, what I see is you, especially all of you, are to do a service with whatever your talents and skills are for the sole purpose of assisting humanity, of assisting others without any expectation of receiving anything in return for your personal selves. That's the biggest thing. You do it because it's the right thing to do, because this is going to help in some way. Your service, your specialty will assist others in a very positive way, whether or not you gain anything from it or not. You're supposed to just put that out of your mind. In fact, expect not to gain anything from it. At least at first. Might be a possible solution for some of you. Okay. When this does not occur, then that which is created through separating and egocentric desires will collapse at some point. So that, okay, for those of you that you can look back and see that something of that nature collapsed for you, now you know why. Now you know why, which you didn't consciously know that you had personal desires rooted in your subconscious. You were desiring a personal outcome for yourself in some way. And again, this was what is going to happen. It was going to happen so that you could see that and bring that out into your conscious awareness, what that specific desire for you, that personal desire for you to attain in some way, what that was, so that you can see that was the reason it toppled. It wasn't anyone else. It's no fault of yours. Definitely not any fault of anybody's else's, because this is your chart, your Pluto in the 12th house, your Pluto in Pisces. This emotional shock intends for the individual to realize the nature and basis of his or her dreams, illusions, and fantasies. Just as the national network began to collapse, the affair that he manifested based on his sex novels also blew up in his face. The fantasy constructed in his mind did not equal the reality of the actual affair, which almost ended his existing relationship. The emotional shocks of reality from both situations set in motion a cycle in which the individual had to totally reevaluate his life. Where was he coming from, and for what reasons? And I want to also say about me personally, for those of you, some of you, this might comfort you or assist you in knowing that I don't have my Pluto in Pisces or the 12th house, but I do have major planets in my 12th house, and they are in Pisces. My Sun, Saturn, Chiron, and Mars are all in Pisces in the 12th house. And then I have my Mercury in the 12th house, but it is in Aries. So I do have an understanding of what they're talking about experientially. Okay? Because all of those planets were in my subconscious. I could not access them without intervention, without someone else helping me, without reading about them, just like I'm reading to you possibly. Okay. The compulsive chasing of the dream can last many lifetimes because the dreams and fantasies are limited only by the power of the individual's own imagination. At some point in the evolutionary process, however, these people will exhaust their separating and avoidance-oriented desires, and an ultimate weariness will descend upon them. Okay, from that sentence, I'm saying possibly some of you, and your natal wheels and your families, your mother, father's, grandparents' natal wheels will show this. It definitely, for some of you, will have been passed down from your parents, grandparents, from your ancestral lineage to you. And again, so if maybe your parents or grandparents had Pisces, Pluto, or Pluto passed down to you in the 12th house, or your grandparents or parents have Pisces and Pluto, and then you have Pluto in the 12th house, or vice versa. Okay. For some of you. And that's a confirmation. So they didn't have the ability to work through it. So it's passed down to you, so you have that privilege. And so when you work through it, you're also assisting your ancestry, absolutely. That and the nodes as well. You can check and see if your nodes of the moon were passed down in house position or zodiac sign. Okay. Okay, so let me see here. Delusioned, they will finally turn to the source to face the abyss of infinity and seek a relationship to the cosmic whole. In this exhaustion of separating fantasies and desires that issue from a deluded imagination, all 12th house Pluto individuals will one day realize the old spiritual axiom that life is but a dream. As the wave upon the sea must return to its source, the ocean, so too must all of us return to our source. Once these individuals come to this realization, they will become divinely inspired as to the nature of their real identity, and can also become divinely inspired to fulfill some type of mission on behalf of all of us. Okay, I'm going to read that again. That is so essential. So you will, hopefully in this life, once these individuals come to this realization, they will become divinely inspired as to the nature of their real identity, and can also become divinely inspired to fulfill some type of mission on behalf of us all. This realization will occur as soon as the individual develops a conscious relationship with the source so that his or her actions and desires are in direct conformity with how the source wants to express itself through them. And again, though, you have to bring out that subconscious, what was subconsciously programmed into you about that self-desiring or the fear, because that comes from a fear. So your fear of letting go of your personal self and just being part of being of service with the creator or with source, so to speak. Okay. And it's going to be different for all of you. It's going to coincide with your south nodes of the moon. Absolutely. Okay. Resistance and denial to merging with the source can be manifested as other quote unquote symptoms, including denial that anything is wrong with themselves and their lives. Compulsively, they pretend that everything's okay. So maybe that's for some of you. Even though their quote unquote reality may not be what it seems, with the blind strength of their 10th house Plutonian wills, they try and make it okay, whether it is or not. At some evolutionary and karmic point, the proverbial rose-colored glasses will break. Cracks in the tint now allow the glaring white light of truth to illuminate their actual reality and their life situation. The cracks are induced through unconscious self-undermining activity or through environmental confrontations in which the self-created reality undermines what they believed in. The shock of experiencing reality creates the necessary disbelief, disassociation, confusion, and alienation that enforces the awareness as to how the person was, quote unquote, hung up of that which was actually unreal. These kinds of shocks enforce the awareness of why the individual was blocking, denying, being excessively naive, seeing what they wanted to see, or refusing to acknowledge that anything was amiss. This awareness usually occurs after a necessary amount of time is spent in not knowing why. One day, of itself, the necessary knowledge illuminates the individual's consciousness. When the magic of this clarity and understanding occurs, the individual is forced to consider that some other power is operating in his or her life. Oh, something bigger than yourself. That's your aha moment that you will have at some point if you haven't had it yet. Wow. Okay. One moment. I will be right back. I apologize. I'll be right back. I needed to get a drink of water. Okay. Okay, so I've got to see here. all 12th house Pluto people will come into this life with an ultimate, timeless sense of right and wrong. This ultimate sense of right and wrong is reflected in a standard of idealized conduct. This standard of idealized conduct manifests itself in varying states of conscious development within these individuals, depending on their evolutionary state. In most, it is sensed as a deep inner feeling of how things should or could be. This inner sense has developed because of the prior evolutionary intent to seek identification with a transcendental truth or reality. As a result of this prior evolutionary intent, all these individuals judge themselves, others, and life in general in reference to this idealized standard of conduct. When their own actions or the actions of others or humanity's actions do not reflect this standard, they will commonly judge themselves, others, or humanity in a negative way as measured against the ideal. Because of the dual desires in the soul, the desire to return to the source competes with all the separating desires that are manifested as dreams and fantasies of an escape or avoidance nature with respect to merging with the source. Thus, these individuals will, on a cyclic basis, judge themselves in relation to what they should have done or should be doing. As a result, many exhibit an intense, self-induced persecution because of their perceived inability to do the right thing, to conform to the idealized standard of conduct whose ultimate root is based in the evolutionary need to merge with the source. Consequently, many will also persecute or judge others relative to their own weaknesses or shortcomings. Many have drawn lifetimes of persecution upon themselves in order to atone for their guilt for not doing the right thing. I'm going to read that sentence again. That is huge. So you have brought persecution, victimization, being victimized is what I'm getting, to yourselves to try and atone for this being judgmental. Okay, let me reread that. Okay, let me see here. Consequently, many will also persecute or judge others relative to their own weaknesses or shortcomings. Many have drawn lifetimes of persecution upon themselves in order to atone for their guilt for not doing the right thing. So you're punishing your own self. So drawing those punishments. So anything that has happened to you in this life or past lives that has been done to you, that you've been victimized, it's saying that you, because of this Pluto in the 12th house or Pisces, that you brought that on yourself because of the past judgments in this life or prior lives on misjudging others pertaining to your own judgments, if that makes sense. This condition serves as the basis of projection, wherein they can judge and persecute others for not doing the right thing according to the 12th house Pluto individual's standard of idealized conduct. Some who have drawn lifetimes of persecution upon themselves will come into this life with an ultimate sense of victimization or martyrdom. Okay. Right, even from the get-go. And Cody, you know what I'm talking about. Right, even from coming into this world, being birthed into this world. Here it is right here. They will feel that life is beyond control, or that they are at the mercy of forces beyond their control. Some of these quote-unquote victims will compulsively avoid or escape reality through drugs, alcohol, or any avoidance-oriented activity. Again, you're going to do this in some way, shape, or form. Or you have done this. All of you with this. This is what you came in with. And this is saying why you've had these experiences, these victimizing experiences, these life or death experiences. And then also you can look, viewers, all of you can look in your natal wheel and see if you have anything else that connects to this Pluto as well. Like Chiron. Chiron in Scorpio. Chiron in the 8th house. Your South Node in Scorpio. South Node in the 8th house. Because the reason I'm saying the 8th house and Scorpio is because that is directly related to transformation, is directly related to victimizing and being and being a victim. So victimizer, victim, victimizer. Not saying that there aren't others as well, but that's what's coming into my head right now to say. Okay. Some of you could also have the opposite nodes in Taurus, Scorpio, whatever, because those are the opposites. 8th, 2nd, either south or north nodes. Chiron, though, is a big one as well. Okay. Chiron in aspect to Saturn is another big one. Okay. Because Saturn has to do with authority figures. Okay, I'll stop there. But anyway, that's a lot. Okay. Okay, so some of these quote-unquote victims will compulsively avoid or escape reality through drugs, alcohol, or any avoidance-oriented activity. This prior life karmic condition usually reflects the fact that these individuals have desired to undermine and erode the illusion of power from an egocentric point of view. So by being a victim, you were assisting yourself to get out of that bad pattern, to bring that out into your conscious awareness. But also, this is essential. Those of you viewers listening to this, this is what you needed to know. Because you're going to automatically stay a victim until you consciously know where that comes from in your natal wheel. This is why true ancient astrology, which is what I talk about, I pass on to you, all of this information, astrological wise, on my channel is for. Because this has to do with true ancient astrology, and this is the only way each and every one of us can get down to the root of what we came in with, what energies we were were coming to us when we were being born is our natal wheel. Okay. Many will have abused power. So many of you will have abused power in the past, and maybe even in this life. From an egocentric point of view before. The God complex. Thus, the necessity for a few lifetimes of persecution and containment wherein their lives were at the mercy of forces apparently beyond their control. Those who have failed to realize the intent for these conditions, for you to actually be playing the part of a victim and experiencing victimization, that's what they're talking about, to align one's will with a higher will. That's what this is all for. So that you can get out of feeling like you want to play God in some way, or that you have that secret desire to play God. Again, I know this is not easy to listen to for some of you, but again, no blame, no fault at all. I certainly don't judge any of you. No. This levels the playing field for all of us. Our nodes of the moon. Our nodes of the moon too, but our natal wheel. I have a different placement. Okay. So it's that sentence again. Those who have failed to realize the intent for these conditions to align one's will with a higher will have or will compulsively blame everything and everyone to justify their negative and avoidance-oriented behavior. So you're going to do that. You're going to do that first. But now those of you that are listening to this, you have the ability and privilege to see where this comes from and see the truths that you can move beyond this. You can move beyond this. You won't be stuck in this program anymore. That is outstanding. Some will remain locked in their own self-imposed prisons, quietly wasting away. That's true. Some of you might not be ready. That's all right. Still others will be compulsive Florence Nightingales who attempt to help everyone, whether they want this help or not. Okay, some of you will do this. That's all right as well. These types will shower indiscriminate mercy upon all, judging nothing, as if judging itself were to be avoided, to be treated as a wrong. In reality, Pluto 12th house individuals have needed to learn what judgment really means, what it is not, and how to exercise proper judgment upon any aspect of life. The lesson here has been and is to learn that ultimate judgment is based upon intentions. Intentions reflect desires. Thus, these individuals must learn to focus upon their desires in order to understand the connection to their intentions. If the desires for right behavior, as related to their idealized standard of conduct, is consistent and strong enough, the intention to act in that way will follow. Similarly, 12th house Pluto individuals must learn to judge others according to their intentions. The inner judgment, which is based on their own actions and how this judgment is projected on others in relation to their actions, is the important issue here. As this famous quote, "Let the one who is without sin cast the first stone." Of course, nobody could throw the stone. The crowd based their anger on a standard of idealized conduct. Yet, as Jesus pointed out, even though all of them had the desire to conform to these standards themselves, none of them had perfectly done so. However, it was appropriate to inwardly judge the error in the prostitute's ways, as it was appropriate to judge the errors in their own ways against the standard of the right conduct. It was not appropriate to hurl stones at the prostitute because of her error. It was not right because they were not free of error or sin themselves. The inner judgment was necessary because the judgment itself promotes the vehicle to become more perfect in relation to the standard of right conduct. The key in this necessary judgment is to forgive oneself and others for the shortcomings or failings that occur because very few of us are perfect. The intention and resolve to become perfect, to improve, is the ultimate standard upon which all of us must be judged by ourselves, others, and the source. It is important to exercise this kind of judgment on ourselves. In the same way, 12th house Pluto individuals must utilize an ultimate standard of conduct in order to recognize the incorrect desires and behavior of others so they do not reflect, assume, or manifest the quote-unquote wrong behavior of others through lack of necessary judgment and discrimination. Excuse me, one moment, I have to blow my nose. All right, we're getting close again. Wow. I might have to make a third one. I'm going to have to make a third video. Wow. This is really, really long. This is the longest Pluto house, which I can see why. There's a lot to explain. Okay. So I will, 38, I have a couple more minutes or about a minute. So I will continue and then I will stop and have to make a third video. Wow. Okay, so let me see here. Concerning others, these individuals must learn not to express judgments upon others unless asked. Unless asked, the best strategy is to mentally affirm change for them. Some who have been karmically destined to play the role of a martyr or victim in order to realize their own lessons in judgment have left us with inspiring testimony to this kind of 12th house truth concerning judgment and forgiveness. Jesus, of course, is a paramount example. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Anne Frank, another example, wrote in her diary, in spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. Jesus had Neptune conjunct the South Node in Scorpio and 6 planets in Pisces opposed Pluto and Mars retrograde in Virgo. The ruler of Jesus' North Node in Taurus was Venus in Pisces. Anne Frank's chart has the South Node in Scorpio, ruled by a 10th house Pluto, with North Node in Taurus, ruled by a 10th house Venus in Taurus. I also have my South Node in Scorpio in the 8th house. And my Pluto is in Virgo with my moon, Uranus, in the opposite house of the rest of my planets in Virgo in the 6th house, opposing again all my Pisces planets I told you about earlier. Okay, so I do have an understanding. The evolutionary lesson, oh, wait a second, let me see how much. Okay, I'm going to conclude right there. I'm going to stop this video and conclude with part 3.